What's up everyone, this is Tranquil Toys, back with another video. Today I'm taking a look at the new Mcfarlane Toys DC Multiverse Collector's Edition Hawkman figure. Now this is a pretty cool figure, definitely a good character to have in your Justice League display or just in your DC display in general. Good figure, looks pretty cool. There's some odd choices here and there in the figure with the engineering. And of course he's not in his classic comic colors with the red trunks and the green tights. I prefer that look. That would fit better with the kind of collection I'm building with my DC figures. When they eventually come out with that, I'm sure they will. They'll probably just do a repaint of this figure, and when they do that, I'll pick that one up. But for now, this is a good placeholder for the character, which is a good character to have, especially if you're building any sort of Justice League display or a Super Friends display, Justice League International or Justice Society of America. I want to briefly talk about the packaging, and there's a giant picture of Hawkman on the back. It's an okay picture. It gives you a good idea of what the figure should look like. But notice how both of his hands are bare and he has wrapping around his wrist. And this one, he has gloves on both hands and then he has his gauntlet on his right hand. So it's not accurate to the figure you're getting, but they've done that before with previous releases, so it's not really a big deal, but it is kind of a dumb mistake that they always make. So being a collector's edition, he does come with the card. Well, every figure comes with the card, but he comes with the stand for the card, which is just kind of pointless. The cards are pretty lame on their own, and then they threw in the stand here, just another piece of plastic that's just useless and a waste. So that's what I think about that. And then of course the stand, which is always useful. They're versatile with many different figure brands. I always appreciate another DC Multiverse stand. Anyway, so getting into the actual figure, we'll take a look at the detail. Obviously the first thing you'll notice is the wings, which are done pretty nicely, I think. You got they're cast in a light gray plastic, and they have this kind of bluish gray shading over it on the front of the wings, and then also on the back of the wings, and then also on the patch of feathers here where the wings plug into. Something to note about the wings is that the holes where the wings plug into are very small. I had to heat up this back part here before I put the wings in, and now they're really hard to remove, so I'm not going to try to remove them. It'll probably break if I try to do that. I'd have to heat it up first if I wanted to take them off. So just so you know, if you're going to put them in, most likely they're going to stay there unless you want to heat them up to take them out. But besides that, the way they look is pretty good. In a minute, I'll get into their articulation and how I think they could have done better with the wings. But the rest of the figure looks pretty good. The sculpt is good. The musculature is okay for the most part. I think his biceps should be a little bit more wider. But the musculature on the chest is really good. The abdomen area is really good. He also has hair painted and sculpted in. And also his skin tone, he's kind of pale. I remember him being a little bit more tan or brownish in the comics and stuff. So I don't know why they went with this pale color. Even on the art on the box, he's not like this pale. He's kind of a bit darker than this, so I don't know why they went with that. But everything is good. The harness is good, the Hawkman symbol. And then you have his gauntlet, which is okay. They didn't use the same color wrist peg right here, so it really stands out with the skin color showing through. His pants, and they're textured up here with the wrinkles, and then on the trunks part there are some lines going through, and then it also carries over onto the boots where they have that same design. And then the belt and the pockets, I think they should have painted that brown. You could definitely go back in there and touch that up. That definitely would have tied it in with the brown in the harness and the glove. And there's also a loop there. I guess his mace goes in there, but that's kind of a problem. The mask, really nicely done, I think. They have two tones of gold. The gold on top is more like a bronze, and the gold for the bottom of the mask is a little bit more yellowish. And he does have his long hair. One more thing I want to mention about the sculpt is there's this really weird sculpting on the back of his lower back. So he has a lot of like wrinkles on his lower back. That looks really gross. I don't know why they sculpted him like that. Would have been better if that wasn't there. That's just like extra work that did not need to be there. So you guys let me know what you think about that. Is that realistic, or is that a mistake? You guys let me know. Anyway, pretty light in accessories. No extra hands or anything, no effects. He does come with his mace, which is pretty gummy piece of plastic. There's no effects to go with the mace, so that's pretty unfortunate. No extra hands. He does come with the wings. That's sort of the selling point of the figure. They could have done the wings a lot better though. Now we'll get into the articulation. So the head is pretty good. He does look up a decent amount. The hair gets out of the way. The hair gets out of the way for the most part. Then he looks down, very good amount. It's good for flight poses. Also, he didn't come with a flight stand. I forgot to mention that earlier. He should have come with a stand that holds him up in the air. That's pretty imperative for a character like this. It's one of the biggest features of this character is that he can fly. He does get a decent amount of tilt, so that's really good. The hair also comes unglued very easily, so I'd be careful when you're posing him around. Shoulders go up that far, which is good. They also go all the way around. Of course, his wings get in the way, and you can shift the shoulders forward and back and up and down. So that gives you a little bit more posability. Then swivel at the bicep. Now here's a problem with my figure. At least I think it's my figure. I don't think it's all the figures, all the Hawkman figures. But his bicep comes off pretty easily, and that goes for both of them. Like, it's not broken, but they do come out. So I don't know what's going on there, but that's really annoying. But they still swivel and give you the range of motion that you want. And then double elbows. The top elbow joint is really stiff. The sculpt of the elbow is really weird. That's kind of how it is with the Mcfarlane figures, though. And on the other arm, the upper elbow joint is also very stiff. And there goes his arm. And the wrist hinges and swivels, and so that's not too bad. Same goes for the fist hand. Also, one thing I just noticed is that both halves of the wrist joint are different skin tones. That's really odd. Another dumb mistake, the torso articulation. So going forward gives you quite a bit, and then going back also gives you a decent amount. And then of course it swivels. Both parts swivel, and also leaning left to right, which is really good. You can get some cool poses out of that. And the legs are actually probably some of the best legs I've seen on a Mcfarlane figure. They go up really far. They do kick out, but I think it still looks good. The trunks don't really hinder it, and you can raise the legs like pretty far forward. So that's really good. I'm actually starting to notice some tearing starting down here. Yeah, you can see it's starting to tear down there. And then swivel, not a whole lot of swivel. Double knees, sculpt is really weird again. No boot swivel. And then you get the same kind of joint as the wrist joint. Hinges up and down. And then you can swivel that. And then you can swivel the foot, break his ankle. So the wings hinge in and out. And they swivel. The only thing it runs into is the other wing. It doesn't look the best in some poses, though. Some poses are better than others. They could have been added a second part. And I think they did make wings on a different figure that had the wings with the two parts, where I had another section that could hinge in and out. But besides that, I think he looks fine, except a few odd engineering choices here and there. And then he does hold his mace very well. It's not loose or anything, so you can get him into some cool poses. He also can't really hold his mace two-handed, so that's why we need the extra hands. Like, I'd rather have extra hands than a card holder. Like, that's just so, it's dumb, it's cheap, it's a cheap route. Now I'll do some comparisons and head swaps. First, here's Martian Manhunter. Here he is next to Superman. The Dark Knight Returns Superman with a custom head. I still need to fix his belt. It's a little messy, but this looks pretty cool. Here's a Boss Fight Studio skeleton. Here he is next to the Barbarian Batman with a custom head on it, and that looks pretty cool. Definitely fits. I think he should have been this skin tone. Maybe you could swap the torso or something, but then you have to worry about this stuff right here, and then taking the harness off and putting it on here. Doesn't look like it's gonna fit, so I don't know. Then here he is next to Masterverse He-Man. And another reason I was interested in getting the Hawkman figure was because he also kind of fits into a Masterverse display, or a Masters of the Universe display. So here's Hawkman with He-Man's head on it. Kind of interesting. Obviously the skin tone doesn't match, but definitely a good base to start a custom. Here's a custom head on the Hawkman body. Doesn't look too bad. Definitely could work for a custom. Then here's the Hawkman head. And here's the Hawkman head on the Barbarian Batman body. This looks pretty cool. Another good base for a custom. Here's Hawkman on the He-Man body. And if you're wondering if the Hawkman harness is removable, I guess technically it is, but it is glued at different points. So similar to the Barbarian Batman, once you take it off, you're going to be left with some marks and scuffs and stuff, and glue residue. So you're going to have to deal with that if you want to take that off. You can give him different weapons, so he's not Hawkman. And he can fit in other fantasy franchises. Like I said earlier, Motu, Marvel even, So I think there's quite a bit of versatility with this figure. Alright, so I did manage to take the wings off, except half of the peg stayed in the hole in the back. It's not broken, it just came apart. Just to give him a different look, so he's less like Hawkman and more like whatever you want him to be. And I think that looks pretty cool. Hopefully that gives you guys some ideas if you want to get this figure for a custom or something. And also, now that the wings are off, you can't really put them on another figure. There's no way for it to plug into like a regular Masterverse figure. So one figure that the wings actually fit on is the Slushman figure, because he does have holes on the back of his armor, space armor suit thing. So I don't know, that's just like a crazy idea. You guys can use that if you want. Here's some Justice League members to give you an idea of what Hawkman looks like with the rest of them. One thing I will point out is that it is sort of off-putting that Hawkman is in this more modern version of his suit, while the rest of the characters are really close to their comic book designs, especially when it comes to the colors. So that is something to be aware of if you're going to add Hawkman to your collection. And then if you're a fan of Justice League International, and here's Hawkman with some members from the Justice League International, also known as Justice League America. So this is pretty cool to see. Again, Hawkman is not in his comic book colors. And honestly, seeing this makes me just want Hawkman in his original comic colors. But for now, this is all we have. Anyways, guys, that's all I got to say for this figure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Follow me on Instagram @TrendKillToys. And I'll see you guys in the next one.